I used to work at this startup in California, and like every self-respecting startup, we had a ping pong table. And, I mean, you can't be a startup without one, right? And so anyway, so some of us, we kind of thought we were pretty good because we'd whipped up on the neighbor kids in each other's basements growing up. But our lead software engineer, a guy named Yufan Chen, had actually grown up in Taiwan playing competitive table tennis, like with a coach and uniforms and real sanctioned tournaments and the whole 9 yards. So suffice to say, he was in a completely different league than all the rest of us. And so anytime I would play Yufan, I'm the obvious underdog. And I know I'm not going to win. He knows I'm not going to win. Everybody watching knows I'm not going to win. But there's a little bit of freedom in that, right? So I'm playing and I'm loose, I'm free, I'm nimble, I'm changing my grip on my paddle, I'm testing out new serves because ultimately it doesn't matter anyway. I'm going to get waxed, right? But every now and then, once in a blue moon, all this experimenting, I would stumble onto something that would kind of throw Yufan for a loop. And I might actually even tie the score. Maybe, really rarely, I'll take a 1-point lead. And it was at that point that Yufan, the crafty veteran, would bust out some psychological warfare. And he would pause the game for a second and he'd just look at me across the table and be like, wow, you're getting pretty good, dude. And just like that, the wheels would fall off every single time. I'd come falling out of whatever zone I was in and crash face first onto the ground. All he had to do was subtly remind me that I had something to lose. Before, I didn't have anything to lose. Now, I've got a chance. I've got something to lose. And so I stop playing to win, and I start playing not to lose. Instead of playing loose and free and nimble, I get tight and rigid and stiff, and I start making all kinds of mistakes. Has anyone ever experienced this? In anything, maybe not ping pong, but any game you've ever played, right? This is a totally universal phenomenon. How do you think this little quirk of the human mind pertains to our careers? Maybe to a business. See, when we start out our careers, almost all of us are right down here. We start at the very bottom, right? We've got nothing to lose. So we're hungry. We're willing to try new things. We're willing to experiment. We're willing to take risks. We're not afraid to fall because, quite honestly, we just don't have that far to fall. But then, all of a sudden, all those skin knees, they teach us things that help us grow. And so we grow our income. We grow our status. We grow our reputation. We grow our job title. We grow our comfort. We grow the number of people whom we're responsible for. And it's somewhere along the way, that's when Yufan shows up in our mind. Is like, getting pretty good, dude. And all of a sudden, we're like, I have something to lose now. So we start getting rigid and stiff, and we stop playing to win, and we start playing not to lose. We stop envisioning how far we could climb, and we start fearing how far we could fall. So, what do we do? What do we do with this mentality? How do we resolve this conundrum? Well, one really simple way, as we've seen, risk tolerance is not fixed. We can all alter our risk tolerance. In fact, research shows that we go up and down this curve, not just through different seasons in our life, but through different hours of the day. Even something as mundane as our proximity to mealtime can affect where we are on here. Right? When we're hungry, we become more risk averse. That's a fact, people. It's been studied. Okay? So how do we resolve this in the moment when we want to take action and we're feeling risk averse? Well, we go back to the future. So all of a sudden, if we just start thinking about where do I want to be? Where do I want to be 5 years from now? 10 years from now? We cast this dream up there. And now, check this out. We don't move at all. We don't change. We just shift our gaze from here to here, and the whole paradigm shifts. All of a sudden, now we become risk tolerant again. Now we see this mountain that we want to climb. We see this peak that we want to take, a new peak, and all of a sudden, we become risk tolerant once again. All it takes is going back to the future. Now, I know you guys have been talking about today what the future looks like for CDM Smith. And one of the things I heard Tim say this morning is, but what does your future look like? Where do you want to take your team? Where do you want to take your career in the next 5 years? What role are you going to play? That's your big dream. That's the thing that's going to keep you striving. And it's going to keep you more comfortable standing on the edge, pushing yourself a little bit outside the comfort zone. What's your big dream?